Hello, and welcome to 5-Year Club video number 88, March Budget Chicken 4, which will be the final budget chicken of Maximum Mustache March. Perhaps I will do an April 1st budget chicken, but yeah, I guess you'll see why I don't think I'm going to have a lot of challenges for March. All right, so I have been on track for my March spending for the second half of March. So much so that March is my best savings month of the year so far, and I am completely stoked about that. So it's like if I can just hold out a little bit more, all I have to do is survive until Friday, which should be easy. And then maybe I can get some sushi Thursday night. I don't know, we'll see. I was reflecting today, though, that like a lot of the simple food that I ate, like I had a lentil wrap from Trader Joe's for dinner. I like it. It's like $4, and like I'm perfectly happy with it. So doesn't mean the sushi is not delicious, but you know, you put some of that spicy lentil sauce stuff on there, and you take a bite, and you're like, food, nourishment, and that's just how it goes. Yeah, anything to go over with March budget chicken? Not too much. Not too much. I feel things went really well this month. I was projecting out before that I would spend about $11.98 outside of the Burning Man ticket, and so far I am at $10.78. So yeah, we'll see if I get much under $11.98. But excluding that Burning Man ticket, I will have done better than 2017, which is pretty cool. So that wraps it up for the March budget chicken, but now I get to rage because my friend sent me this article, and I wanted to point it out to you, as I've done with some articles before, because I think this is something that is a challenge that everybody who wants to improve their finances is going to have to overcome, and that is the current climate in the media towards personal finance. This article, let's click on it. Being frugal is for the rich. The Frugal Woods made a name for themselves teaching millennials how to save money. Trouble is, you have to start with a lot of it. And this is by a guy named Miles Howard. So let's open this article up in a new tab, and let's look at the author. Who is Miles Howard, who has decided to write an article about the Frugal Woods? Well, he is a writer and communications consultant, and he really loves identifying as a millennial. He's pushing, I guess, this book that he wrote at the top with an upside-down American flag. Okay, and okay, he's the principal of his own editorial thing. And what's his background, though? Okay, so he was an admin assistant back 2008 to 2010 at a school of cinematic arts. And he has a BA in English and film from the University of Southern California. So he either has a lot of student loan debt or came from an affluent family and chose to get some of the least economically productive degrees that there are, English and film, having paid, what is the tuition there? I know the tuition there now is something like, it's like $200,000 overall to go to University of Southern California. So it's like, if you come out with an English degree and you're not going to be a lawyer, English is the lowest paying degree of all the degrees. And it doesn't appear that he's in film right now. So yeah, questionable financial choices by the author of this article. And I gotta say, this is super common when you look at media articles on personal finance. A lot of the people who will write an article, for example, like this, where he is going to bash the crap out of the Frugal Woods, they're often written by English majors who are not very financially successful. So they are bringing some of their own problems to the table. Who are the Frugal Woods? Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't read their book, and I don't even really pay that much attention to them. I think I follow them on Instagram, and occasionally I'll see like a picture of their yard in Vermont or something like that. But from my understanding, they're basically a couple who graduated, went into pretty well-paying professional degrees, bought a house in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and then kind of had a turning point where they're like, we don't want to keep grinding away at these jobs, started saving tons of money, moved out of their house, rented it out for a while, maybe eventually sold it, bought a property in Vermont, and now they try to live on very little money in Vermont while the dude works remotely as like a software engineer for a nonprofit, and the mom stays at home full-time with their kid and then does kind of this frugality blogging on the side, and that's who the Frugal Woods are. So let's read this article, and I'm just going to make my side commentary as I see fit, because that's what I get to do. It's my show. Ha ha ha. Being frugal is for the rich. The Frugal Woods made a name for themselves teaching millennials how to save money. Trouble is, you have to start with a lot of it. That's right, guys. You have to start with a lot of money in order to save. Wait, no, you don't. You just have to save some money. All right. What if buying a country house with its own apple orchard were as easy as giving up artisanal cheese and pre-sliced carrots for a while? What if you were able to retire in your 30s by simply living more intentionally and investing in low-fee index funds? If all this sounds peachy, then you've got to meet the Frugal Woods. You might have read their story in The Guardian, but in any event, here's the spiel. The Frugal Woods, real names Liz Willard Thames and Nate Thames, are a millennial couple who did the 9-to-5 nonprofit thing in Cambridge, Massachusetts for several years before realizing they were trying to buy their way into happiness and deciding they had to break free. How? By retiring early, of course. So they squirreled away the majority of their income in 2014. They saved an impressive 71%. Cut back on things like eating out at restaurants and taking public transportation to work, and started a blog about their lives. The Frugal Woods soon had enough money saved to escape their frenzied, I'm not sure why that's in quotes, I'd like to know, city grind. They bought a 4-bedroom house in Vermont and began a leisurely new life on 66 acres of woods, streams, and apple trees. Within a few years, the Frugal Woods garnered a vocal audience of aspiring frugalists, a book deal with HarperCollins, and enough guest spots on money podcasts to catch the attention of NPR and the New York Times. This month, Liz has published their story as Meet the Frugal Woods, which they're spinning as an inspirational memoir for young readers looking to regain control of their lives by saving money and making smart investments. The book reveals various hacks the Frugal Woods employed to realize their dream of retiring to Vermont, such as giving each other haircuts, remodeling their kitchen themselves, trawling Craigslist for furniture deals. It also covers the challenge of welcoming a baby to the mix. In addition, the Frugal Woods claim has only cost them $75 each month. They recently had a second. And then here's a great opinion. Their story slots neatly into a classist. That's how we know we're getting into the millennial victim talk. We've already broken out classist. Myth that millions of adults in this country still believe. The most curious feature of the Frugal Woods saga is what's missing from the narrative and what gets magnified. Here's one example. In the Guardian piece, which is culled from the book, Liz dedicates multiple paragraphs to describing how she and Nate started insourcing various household projects that might otherwise be farmed out to contractors, like painting their kitchen cabinets. What's weird is the book's assumption that hiring a cabinet painter is an expense that millennials are liable to encounter, and that doing the job yourself is somehow empowering, innovative, and thrifty. Well, I think kind of by definition it's thrifty. And I don't know about this guy, but I don't know. It's empowering for me to do housework. I replaced my garbage disposal. Now I'm a badass. I replaced my garbage disposal. All right. Which leads to the Godzilla-sized question that overshadows so much of what the Frugal Woods write. How much money do they have, and where does it come from? The frugal woods are tight-lipped about their income, though back in we're going to talk about this in a second. I've got some things to say. The frugal woods are tight-lipped about their income, though back in 2012, before they moved to Vermont, the couple bought a $460,000 four-bedroom house in Cambridge, a short walk from MIT, according to their blog. Last year, they rented it for a monthly rate of $4,400. They've also built a healthy investment portfolio. 2014, Liz wrote that she and Nate both maxed out the $17,500 federal limit on 401k contributions, explaining that these didn't factor into their annual percentage of saved income, which was already a whopping 71%. But here's the real kicker. The frugal woods have not actually retired in the traditional sense. A recent PBS NewsHour feature on the frugal woods clarified that Nate still works remotely for a political nonprofit, hence the long taxing search for a Vermont house with fiber optic internet, and Liz writes and monetizes the blog. For that reason, she told PBS she prefers to describe herself as financially independent. All right, so let's talk about this, guys. And I think this is something maybe that the author is missing here, but the real kicker. So financial independence, generally speaking, in the early retirement community or in the financial independence community, so FIRE community, financially independent, retired early. That's what the acronym means. Financial independence is when your invested assets, right, or when your passive cash flows, such as from renting out a house for $4,400 a month, exceed your expenses. And that's what financial independence is. When your invested assets, when 4% of the invested assets, that's usually the rule that they use, the 4% rule, plus whatever you're getting from your rentals beyond what it takes to maintain them and pay the taxes and all that. When those can cover your bills, because you can get your bills down really, really low, your ongoing costs really low, you are financially independent. And when you are financially independent, you no longer have to work anymore, because these passive incomes will pay for your life. And so if you don't like what you're doing with your life, you can just go home and not come back to that job. And it's not a big deal within the financial independence community to people, this distinction between being retired and being financially independent, because it's understood within that community what those mean in terms of personal finance. But this article says it as if somehow by continuing to work at these places, they're like cheating. As if like to be financially independent, you must stay home, or to be retired, you must stay home and not do anything. Stay on the couch, don't move. Otherwise, you're not financially independent. And that's crazy, because Warren Buffett goes into work every day, I'm pretty sure, and he's worth like billions and billions and billions, and I don't think anyone would say he's not financially independent. So the frugal woods appear to be doing pretty well for themselves, and if their story carries a whiff of deja vu, that's probably because it slots neatly into a classist myth that millions of adults in this country still believe, the story of the American millennial. It goes like this. The 2008 recession may have cratered the wages and employment prospects for people just entering the job market, but according to the myth of the American millennial, the real problem young people have today is themselves. Nearly a decade after the crash, the mainstream media still seems hell-bent on portraying people born between 1982 and 2004 as a bunch of decadent and fun-employed narcissists who piss their parents' money away on matcha green tea lattes, spend too much time Instagramming their pets, and are thus responsible for the economic rut they are stuck in. I completely disagree with this characterization of millennials in the media. I think it cuts both ways. I think some people discussing millennials at work describe them as expecting more than what they have earned. And I think that a lot of millennials, who frankly are writing a lot of the media these days, describe themselves as screwed by the economy. But I think that both things are true. I think that on the one hand, a lot of millennials were put into an economy where there weren't as many jobs and they were put into a recession. And on the other hand, millennials who paid attention in college to getting job skills and came out with a decent job where they could actually save money, came out into an economic environment where the stock market was super low, and very early in your career, you had the opportunity to buy stocks at ridiculous discounts. And if you did heavily invest your money and live like a college student throughout your 20s as a millennial, it's not confusing to me by the time you're 30 if you can retire, because the stock market has gone up so much and you would have been able to benefit from all of that. Especially if, you're in one of these professions where you're making a good amount of money early in your career, such as tech. Or even, I think if you did, say, like a 2-year degree after undergrad to get like a PA job or a physician's assistant, I think also might be able to do it. Of course, paying back the physician's assistant school thing, that definitely would have delayed it, so maybe not. There is no doubt when it comes to early retirement that the whole software engineering thing, like there's just not that many jobs that fit, high money very early in the career without a lot of professional degree debt, and so happens that your job is obsessed with optimizing things, which is exactly what all this personal finance stuff is about. All right, let's continue reading the article. No, let's go back. I want to talk about this finally. How much money do they have and where does it come from? Let's talk about this. This is a catch-22 when you talk about personal finance. And the reason why is because if you don't say how much money you have, then people will kind of pretend that you're a liar. And they'll pretend that maybe you're not financially independent, or that you're lying about how much you've achieved, or you're lying about the timeline that you're on in terms of when you can succeed. For the people who have already retired, like Mr. Money Mustache, they can't really argue with that guy because he's already, like, obviously not employed at his job anymore. But you really can't win if you don't say it, right? Because if you don't say it, then people are always going to act like you're just making all this shit up. And then where does it come from, right? So in this kind of article, these people are like, of course you got your money from your parents. Or, of course you got your money from a high-paying profession, which you were only able to have because you got money from your parents. And that is the story kind of told throughout all of these articles. If you do say how much you have, right, then they're going to basically trumpet that number over and over again, and they're going to say, like, of course life is easy for this guy. He has $500,000. Of course life is easy for this guy. He has $1 million. He's only able to be frugal because he already has $1 million. Being frugal is for the rich. And at least in my opinion, I think a lot of times saying how much you earn or saying how much net worth you have, it only serves as a distraction from what you're writing about, because people come to the table with all kinds of preconceived notions about how much money is worth, how much money you need, how much money you should be making, how much money you should be spending. And when you say a number, it's going to trigger all of the preconceived things that they came to the table with, which is totally going to distract them from whatever you're trying to discuss that's on the table at the time. And for that reason, I understand why people in the personal finance industry don't like saying their numbers, because it just becomes like saying the size of your dick. Like, suddenly the conversation is all focused on one thing, and it's not the thing you were talking about before. Oh, this just got really awkward. See, that's exactly what happens. All right, let's continue with the article. Okay, so this myth, which scrubs millions of underprivileged millennials from the picture, is crucial to understanding why the media is swooning over the frugal woods right now. What's remarkable about them is how they've managed to offer the public a kind of millennial redemption story, a tale of two millennials taking their time and responsibility to learn about money, rein in their spending impulses, and achieve financial security. But how realistic is this narrative? I like this because realistic a lot of times will say something along the lines of, what are the broad statistics of a group of people about how often those people succeed? And that is a completely different question than, can you do the things I'm about to tell you that are possible to do? And will you do it? But this is what they always break out. They always break out these kind of high-level statistics, and then they say, like, no, high-level statistics don't support it. It's impossible. Not very. Millennials have been caricatured as affluent liberal arts majors with no career plans, but the reality is most millennials don't even have a college degree. And last year, the advocacy group Young Invincibles used Federal Reserve data to determine that millennials as a whole earn about 20% less than baby boomers did during their formative years and amass roughly half the net worth. The Bureau of Labor Statistics puts the median weekly income for millennials with a high school diploma at $692, which amounts to barely $36,000 a year for full-time annual salary. Meanwhile, the minority of millennials with associate's and bachelor's degrees earn median weekly incomes of $819 and $1,156, which respectively add up to $42,000 a year and $60,000 a year annually. That's before their paychecks are flattened by rent, utilities, and exorbitant health insurance premiums and deductibles. And for the millions of millennial freelancers toiling away in the gig economy, which is growing larger each year, benefits like 401k plans and employer-paid insurance slide further out of reach. Following the 2008 recession, a new kind of self-help guru, the millennial frugality expert, emerged from the rubble. I kind of like this. It reminds me of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie where Shredder's hand comes out of the pile of rubble. And I'm actually kind of into that. I kind of want to emerge from rubble as a millennial frugality expert. That sounds good to me. Of course it does. Then, of course, there is student loan debt. According to the Federal Reserve, millennials in their 20s carried an average of $22,135 last summer. This is one of the most integral metrics of the millennial experience because of its implications for how much money a young person can save. A recent study by Apartment List claims that the rarefied minority of debt-free millennials are putting away twice as much money as their counterparts who are still paying off balances. This makes it easier to put a down payment on a house, build a portfolio, and if you're lucky, retire early, Frugalwoods style. To be fair, the Frugalwoods aren't the only ones preaching the gospel of salvation through penny pinching, nor did they set the stage. The Western elite's obsession with frugality. This is one of my favorite parts of the article. Really, the Western elite's obsession with frugality? Who here thinks that Donald Trump has an obsession with frugality? You know, you look at our celebrity culture. Who thinks that Kim Kardashian has an obsession with frugality? Really? The Clintons are worth $100 million and they've got that super fancy home in that expensive area of New York, and the Western elite have an obsession with frugality? Give me a break. Stretches at least as far back as the inception of Protestant work ethic, the popular idea that frugality is self-discipline and therefore something a virtuous person practices. Many of the modern rich are prolifically frugal, and for Americans who dream of a more gilded life, the art of bean counting can become its own form of religion. No, I don't think this is... I think you've got this backwards, dude. Americans who dream of a more gilded life take out credit to buy the gilded life. They don't bean count. They take out a credit card and they buy... Well, I'm not going to say BMW because that'd be a weird way to buy a BMW. But they buy the thing they can't afford. They don't bother to do the bean counting, and then they end up not having any money because they owe these payments, and they didn't bother to tally the total of what everything cost and what percentage of their income it was and how it relates to their savings rate. So yeah, some of the modern rich are very frugal, and many of the people who win the lottery lose all the money because they're not particularly frugal. And I think a lot of the rich are not particularly frugal. They're just very good at earning. And when you get to people who have $10 million of net worth or more, you know, they don't have spending problems. They're not particularly frugal. They're just really good at networking and earning. And that's my opinion on that. When Warren Buffett talks about how he still takes his $3 breakfast at McDonald's, most Americans will interpret the anecdote In one of two ways. They'll read it as a slice of humble pie. That cuddly old billionaire hasn't forgotten his roots. Yeah, I think Warren Buffett's nice to cuddle. Or as a clue to be deciphered. Maybe I'd be a billionaire too if only I spent $3 on breakfast. Who the fuck believes that? Give me a break. The former endears us to the ruling class, and the latter conditions us to look at wealth building as an exercise in personal improvement as opposed to surviving. Or, better yet, fixing the structures and policies that keep most of us trapped in economic insolvency. All right, so the structures and policies that keep most of us trapped, us, the author included. The author who went to the University of Southern California and got his English and film degrees. Those English and film degrees and the fact that he's writing his opinions for a living have nothing to do with his economic situation. His economic situation is caused by the structures and policies that keep those Americans going to elite private schools down. Oh, give me a break. You know, is wealth building an exercise in personal improvement? Well, I gotta say, I think that wealth building is an exercise in happiness, because I think a lot of the things you have to do to build wealth involve recognizing consumption that is a quick fix to happiness. And because you have to eliminate that consumption to get a higher savings rate, you have to look for other answers in terms of increasing personal happiness. And when you find those other answers, they are permanent improvements to your personal happiness because it gives you skills and tools that you didn't have before to keep yourself emotionally pretty chill, pretty good. And as opposed to surviving, well, I don't know, last 30 years of your life, you're going to need some kind of money. And building wealth for the last 30 years of your life, it's an exercise in surviving the last 30 of your life. So this author is confused. Following the 2008 recession, a new kind of self-help guru, the millennial frugality expert, emerged from the rubble. Boom! Before the Frugal Woods, there was Broke Millennial, a self-described financially independent New Yorker whose parents covered half her college tuition and began teaching her about building capital when she was 7 years old. She now imparts these lessons to her followers. Let's go see Broke Millennial. Another expert was the Millennial Money Man. I also like this guy because I think he makes good money. A guy who dishes out anti-entitlement advice about growing your wealth. Not one for false modesty, he also keeps a live personal income report on the header of his blog. His January income was $155,000. So now we see, right? Like, you know, here's a guy who actually gives out his income number and, you know, not one for false modesty. He also keeps a live personal income. And does the author talk about this $155,000? No, he doesn't. He just lets it ride. And why does he let it ride? He lets it ride because he knows the reader is going to think like, holy crap, $155,000 is a lot of money. This guy isn't frugal. He is rich. And yeah, for sure, $155,000 of income per month is a large amount. What I would be interested in reading this statement, let's go see. I think I've read this before. No, okay, he doesn't actually link to the income statement. Let's go see if we can find it here. Destroy your loans, press recommended categories. No thanks, I'm rich. Yep. Categories, let's go see if we can find a category. Side hustle, how to save. Millennial guest post, investing tips, millennials recommended press. No. See, what I'm looking for right now is I want to see this income. Yeah, full income report. Bam, 155,000. Let's go see this. So 155,000 of income. Wow, looks like he did something right. He went from like 20,000 to like 155. Okay. Talking about me. Okay. Let's go see how I made 155,000 working online. Net revenue, gross revenue. Facebook So he sold a course for a bunch of money. Okay. That's nice. And some more stuff. Income, 72,000. What I'm interested in is I wanted to know if 155,000 is the net or if 155,000 is the gross, because they are very different things. What? There we go. Okay, Mike and I certainly aren't going to take out half every month. But legally, we get 50% before taxes. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, it looks like it was actually that much, but of course taxes just destroyed him. He doesn't actually get to take it home. All right, fair enough. What evangelists like these have embraced is a model of advice giving that mostly involves telling self-congratulatory stories about how they achieved financial independence by being frugal. Sometimes the stories pander to millennials by touching on issues like climate change, frugality is environmentalism, or the grim projections for Social Security and Medicare that millennials should anticipate. But these stories are often missing the same pieces the Frugal Woods narrative lacks. Factors like above-average income, see Millennial Money Man's oft-mentioned marketing business, and access to capital and information, see Broke Millennials oft-referenced financial literate and savvy parents. I gotta say, this is disingenuous because, you know, there is so much information for free online. There is no problem in America with access to information. You can go in a public library and get tons of free information. Not that hard. Access to capital. Access to capital. You know, I think access to capital, I think it's kind of an ambiguous phrase in the following sense. I could go get a high-interest credit card, and I could take out, I don't know, $10,000, I'm sure. And I could try to use that $10,000 to start a business, and it's going to go one of two ways. Either my business is going to fail because I'm not that good at starting businesses because I haven't done very many of them. And then I'm going to owe high interest, you know, debt on this $10,000. Or the business is going to succeed and I pay back that money and I start a business with $10,000. Or perhaps I start a business without $10,000 and succeeds. Or perhaps I start a business without $10,000 and it fails. But the point is, like, just being able to get $10,000 does not automatically make you a success. Yeah, I think when it comes to access to capital, if you're talking about being a success as a business, I think you need access to the capital of your clients. So certainly if you're in, you know, a poor country, none of your customers are going to have any money, so it's going to be hard to have you know, like a good income. But if you're in America, you have access to all kinds of capital through your customers. So that's just a matter of what kind of business you choose to make and who you're targeting. Okay, are often glossed over and not given the weight they deserve, in the opinion of this author. And I disagree with the opinion of this author. The way that you plan and the way that you manage your money matter more than your income. And kind of equivalently, the amount that you plan is going to heavily impact your income. If you don't plan to enter a profession that makes a lot of money, it's going to be hard to make a lot of money. But if you start planning and putting effort into getting yourself into a profession that makes a lot of money, yes, it can take some time, but you will eventually make some money. So who are these financial independence sermons for? Why are the Frugalwoods and their ilk broadcasting their life stories as practical advice for a generation that, on the whole, is just trying to stay afloat in the present, much less retire before 35? This guy's talking about himself. And I have to say that the early retirement bloggers, in general, are targeting the top 20% of earners. It's true, because the bottom 80% of earners generally have lower incomes, so early retirement seems much further away. A lot of times they also have more debt, which means that the financial advice that's kind of more effective for them is often around focusing on paying back that debt, not on retiring early, which would be very challenging to do with their incomes. And I gotta say that overall in the personal finance community, the earning side of it, how to earn more money, it is an underserved side. And I have been tempted, like, hey, maybe I should just focus like 100% on earning more money, because that seems to be an area where there's not very many popular bloggers. There are some, but a lot of times when it comes to people who are giving holistic financial advice, they kind of skip over the income section. All right. And yet there's a moment in their PBS special when Liz appears to concede. She gives up. She concedes that her advice might only be relevant for a lucky minority. Lucky minority. The people who earned the top 20% did it through luck. It's not through choices or planning or decisions, it's through luck. I am very aware that my frugality is elective and there's so much privilege that goes into choosing your lifestyle, whatever it is, she says. I think it's very important for me to recognize that the way in which I experience frugality is not going to be the way in which everyone experiences it. Well, Liz, you are very nice, and you worked in the liberal nonprofit space, so of course you're going to talk about privilege. But yeah, you also know that you did a lot of planning, and you do a lot of ongoing planning, so it's not surprising why your Vermont life is working out. But here's the thing, regardless of intent, these millennials are telling an older generation of elite Americans, the very people whose policies and financial decisions kneecap the economy, what they want to hear, that everything is more or less okay, and young people just need to be more thoughtful about their money, and that's a shitty idea to perpetuate. It's a shitty idea to tell people to think more about their money. Because whatever happens in the years ahead, penny pinching will likely remain a lifestyle enhancement for bourgeois millennials who possess enough money to enjoy the dividends of being thrifty. For most of us, there are no dividends, just thrift. To enjoy the dividends of being thrifty. Well, I think if the Frugalwoods save $10 and they buy, VTI, then they're going to get the returns of VTI. And if this author saves $10 and buys VTI, he's also going to get VTI. And I think that this last part is the author's story to himself, that the Frugalwoods, you don't need to listen to their book because they're just, talking to an older generation of elite Americans. They're certainly not talking to young people who look very much like themselves. And people don't need to think more about their money because your outcomes are determined by systematic things beyond you. This is exactly the same article you see. This guy did not mention anywhere how behaviors or choices or planning play into wealth building. And we will go find one of my favorite things here in this other article, The Pernicious Ideology of Personal Finance Scolds. This is from a few years ago. I think it's 2015. Yeah. All right. So I love this. So are you saving enough for retirement? Probably not. If you listen to the personal finance advisors out there, these are people who perform middle-class morality by scolding people for not saving enough money. And sure, cutting debt and avoiding high-interest loans is all well and good. Oh, that's all well and good. Has nothing to do with wealth. It's just all well and good. But the ideology of saving scolds goes a lot further than that. Saving scolds. I made up a new word. Their radically individualist views are not just incoherent, but ideologically pernicious. Oh, those are some big words, buddy. First of all, I have yet to see it demonstrated that significantly increasing the savings rate is actually mechanically possible. Really? Well, you should come to my house. I'll show you. Consider the radical savings scold Mr. Money Mustache. He's a radical! Who suggests a savings rate of 50% is a great target. Right? My stepdad said that 50% is a great target. My stepdad's not Mr. Money Mustache. He's just a guy who, I think he started going to college at 29 and then worked hard and is now happily retired. And when it comes to one person, it might well be. But when it comes to everyone as a whole, it isn't so simple. Personal consumption currently amounts to nearly 3/4 of the economy, while the savings rate is about 5%. What would happen if the rate were jacked up to 50% overnight? The country would fall into an instant depression. I love this kind of economic logic. I absolutely love this kind of economic logic. Holy crap. This is amazing. This is beautiful. Okay, so this guy has no idea what he's talking about. All right, so if people's savings rates went up to 50%, well, first off, if the savings rate were jacked up to 50% overnight, that can't happen. It can't happen because you have bills to pay. Those bills are already coming, and you're going to pay them. So, this wouldn't be a savings rate overnight. This would be what happened if you defaulted on your obligations tomorrow. What happens if everyone defaulted on their obligations tomorrow at once? Well, then that would be kind of like everyone breaking kind of the social agreement between us that we will form contracts and honor them all at once. And would the country fall apart if everyone decided not to honor their obligations overnight? Sure, absolutely. Let's ask a different question. What would happen if people made better decisions about their finances, more efficient decisions about their finances, and bumped their rate up to 50% over a longer period of time? I don't know what that period of time is. It's arbitrary. Who cares? Well, number one is that money isn't going nowhere, right? That money is going to do something. It's not like people are saving 50% and then shoving all that money underneath their mattress. No, they're investing that money. It would be silly not to. When they invest that money, well, where are they going to invest it? They're going to invest it in productive businesses. So a lot of these people graduating from college, what are they going to have? They're going to have more access to capital. They're going to have more access to money from people saying, hey, you graduated from college. The stock market doesn't look like that good of a deal right now. So instead, I'm going to basically take, say, applications from potential entrepreneurs, evaluate your business ideas, and then put some money into that. So I think that would be very productive. And indeed, that's what you see in countries like Japan that had kind of mandatory very high savings rates around World War II. The country took that money and built very productive industrial infrastructure, which is a big reason why Japan is such an economic powerhouse today, because they used that higher savings rate and invested it within their country. And I think Chile has done something similar with their retirement program where people pay like 10% into it, and then they reinvest it into Chile, and Chile gets better internal infrastructure to be more economically productive. So, no, I don't find that we would fall into an instant depression. I think things would be fine. They'd be better. The reason, roughly speaking, is that money goes in circles. My spending is your income, and your spending is my income. As Paul Krugman likes to say, if we both deeply slash our spending at the same time, all we'll do is reduce our individual incomes. Well, that's not all that we'll do. And I think that the idea that everyone would instantaneously stop spending their money in the way that they're spending and none of this other stuff would happen is unrealistic anyway. So I'm not sure that this is even worth addressing because it's such a dumb idea. Anyway, I don't need to read this whole article. I just particularly like referring to Mr. Money Mustache, who is a very humble guy and does not take himself seriously, as a radical saving scold. The saving scolds. I wanted to read this article, and I wanted to show you a little bit of this article, and this article, blah, blah, blah. And I'll mention a woman, Helene Olin, because we are in the media in a culture of professional victims. They are people who write victim articles in personal finance over and over again, and they collect money for it. They have like GoFundMe's for it. They have Patreon accounts where people can contribute to help them write more of these victim articles. And you can recognize them as victim articles because all the emphasis is placed on circumstances and systematic oppression, and none of the articles discuss the role of choice, and certainly none of the articles suggest making better choices or even outline what those better choices would be. And I think these articles are dangerous because some of what these articles say is true. Not all of what the articles say is true, but some of it is true. But the thing is, what is true is not always helpful. For example, if I go to a low-income school, right, and I'm like mentoring a kid at the low-income school, and I decide that the way I'm going to be a mentor for this kid is I'm going to go to him every day. I'm going to say, hey, low-income kid, there's a 70% chance you will never be successful with money. Every single day. Kid, there's a 70% chance you will never be successful with money. 70% chance you'll never be successful with money. 70% chance you'll never be successful with money. There's a 70% chance you won't be successful with money. More than a 2/3 chance you won't be successful with money, kid. Kid, 70% chance you won't be successful with money. Over and over again. What am I saying? I'm telling the kid over and over again, you'll probably fail, you'll probably fail, you'll probably fail. You will probably fail. In all probability, you will fail. The statistics show you will fail. And are these statistics correct? Well, according to a study by the Pew Charitable Trust, and I can provide this link in the description, yes, it's true. Let's go look at the article. Why not? There's a nice little pie chart, I think, in here. Yep. 70% remained in the lower income bracket, 26% rose to middle or upper middle class, and 4% became high earners. So I tell this kid over and over again, you'll probably fail, you'll probably fail, you'll probably fail, you will probably fail. Is that helpful? Is that the kind of message that you would want teachers to tell your child every day? I don't want my child in a class like that. I don't want my child in a class where the teacher is saying over and over again, you are going to fail. And I think that most parents would agree with that. So I have to ask the question, if you're not okay with your kid being fed that every day, then why are we okay feeding ourselves that every day with this steady diet of defeatist victim garbage? These articles are popular because change is hard. And when we fail to make changes that we need to make in our life, being shown statistics that most people fail and most people don't change, they help ease the pain because they say it's all right, you just didn't do anything exceptional. It wasn't going to work out anyway. It's not your fault. It's not my fault I'm not good at yoga. I wasn't genetically privileged with flexibility. But the problem with this is that the pain that we have about things that we're not accomplishing or things that we failed at is pain that causes us to react. It causes us to make changes in our life. It causes us to do things differently. And when we avoid that pain, because it's emotionally easier to externalize the responsibility, to say it's not my fault, especially when we pair that externalization, that's a big word. Bam! I used a big word too. Externalization. I add an isation to the word external. My goodness. Yeah, especially when we pair that externalization with anger, with outrage, with the dopamine that comes with anger and outrage, which is what Facebook has turned into now. Just everyone's angry about everything. Doesn't matter if you're conservative or liberal. Something's going to piss you off when you scroll through the news feed. Then we don't change because we're fine just being pissed off about this external thing that has fucked us over in a way that we're not responsible for, and there's Nothing we can do about yelling about it. And apparently yelling about it does something. But the thing is, yelling about it doesn't do anything. Yelling about it doesn't increase your savings rate. Yelling about it doesn't teach you job skills that help you earn a higher income. Yelling about it doesn't connect you with people who can teach you job skills. Just connects you with people who want to yell about it too. And so you stay stuck in a rut. You surround yourself with articles like this, or you simply fail to surround yourself with anything different from these articles, because in large part they are the default of what Google News will choose to put around you and what Facebook will choose to put around you, especially if you're coming from a liberal college. I can say that like a tremendous number of my friends, because of their preferences, I get to see all that stuff in my news feed. You just get stuck in a rut, and it's bad. I don't want people to be stuck in a rut. I want people to feel some pain, yeah, but I want them to feel pain because I know the pain helps them make changes and move themselves forward, and I think that's healthy, and that gets you a lot of really satisfying benefits in the long run. And I guess finally I'm just going to end this by showing you millennials might as well belong to a wealth gap caste system. Let's go look at this Patreon page by this author. I tried to actually post a link to the article, but for whatever reason, WordPress did not accept the link and kind of hid it. I'm a futurist in residence, now active on Medium. You can read my articles here. I'm freelancing as a blogger and content strategist, but spending a lot of time writing futurist content lately. A lot on cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. Oh, that's profitable. I'm living in a small 3.5 with my girlfriend from Taiwan. I really needed to know where your girlfriend was from. And hustling in the gig economy, whatever that is, with a daily goal of writing 2,000 words a day. I graduated from college in 2009, maybe one of the worst times to graduate in the city with the second highest per capita number of students in North America. Well, then move, buddy. That's what I did. I moved. I graduated in 2007, which was also maybe one of the worst times to graduate. And I moved my ass all the way out across the country to California. And then I slept on somebody's couch for a month. And then I slept on a mattress on a floor in an attic for 6 months. Unable to find a good job or stable career prospects, I joined the gig economy as a freelancer by serendipity and necessity. It wasn't easy, and my income has been anything but stable. Well, I guess you messed that up. The dream of being a futurist. After writing 8,000 mostly unread poems, it took 8,000. I mean, look, I'm at video number 88, so fair enough, dude. I feel ya. Like, if I do this 100 more times, I'll be dead, probably. But, so I feel ya about doing stuff that can feel confounding. I decided the life of the starving artist maybe wasn't for me. Could blogging work? I became a prolific futurist, tech news obsessed, with no homepage but my LinkedIn profile. I hope, you know, when I read this, I hope that you... Here's the thing with me. If you deeply understood cryptocurrency and you deeply understood blockchain, then you could get a job as a developer. And if you had a job as a developer, then you would not need to be a freelance blogger. So yeah, I'm not going to become a patron. I'm not going to become a patron for this guy, clearly, right? But yeah, this explains why he writes an article like, you know, a title like Millennials might as well belong to a wealth gap caste system, because this is not a guy who has seriously tried to pursue wealth himself. He keeps trying to make this writing thing work money-wise in an economy where writing does not work out for most people money-wise. He has other options. He could take a different job and write on the side. That's what I would do. And he's trying to write 2,000 words a day. Buddy, I can write 2,000 words a day and I can keep my full-time job while doing it. You need to get your ass in gear. Okay, that is it for 5-Year Club video number 88, the longest video on Earth. I'm sorry it's so long. I enjoyed raging. probably one person's gonna watch this whole thing. March budget chicken number 4. Maximum Mustache March has been a fabulous success. I've only got to live out the next few days without spending too much money on food, which should be easy, and maybe I'll check in when I can get some more of this sushi. That's my reward, and then I gotta come up with some kind of rhyme for April. Aimless asshole April? I don't know. Who knows? That's it. Okay, have a fabulous evening.